I'm about to give you a bold prediction for the Austin housing market for 2024, and it's not what you'd expect to hear out of a realtor. Jeremy Knight, the Knight, your favorite Austin realtor. In order to give you that prediction, I need to do a few things first. I need to go through the Fed meetings for November because this is really what's going to set up the housing market going into 2024. We need to go through all the predictions like Redfin's prediction and many of these other companies out there, Fannie Mae, that have gone through and made predictions. The Austin housing numbers came out for November, and there's some surprising information in there. So we're going to go through that as well. And then I'm going to give you my overall just kind of information on what I think is going to happen going into 2024. Look, I'm going to give you also, if you're a buyer or seller, some tips if you are going to be in the market to buy or sell. Now, look, I'm not trying to be a sleazy realtor, but people need to buy and sell. I think people who want to get angry in the comments and be keyboard warriors understand people still need to buy and sell. Okay, so here's where we're going to go. Let's start with the Fed. From the Fed meeting, they basically said there's not going to be any more rate hikes. They kept the rate at the same level, which is a Fed fund rate. For interest rates, we follow the 10-year treasury. Usually what happens with that, the 10-year treasury will follow, and then that will affect mortgage rates. First of all, the market had already kind of priced in that there's going to be 5 rate cuts next year. And we were hearing this before the Fed meetings. But what that means, that wasn't going to start until like June, July of next year. So it wouldn't really affect until Q3, Q4. You know, Jerome Powell pretty much indicated there's going to be 3 rate cuts, not hikes next year, which they're still trying to get this soft landing figured out. Look, we're going into election year. They want everything to be easy peasy. If you look at the news, everybody's talking about how wonderful the economy is, how great the economy is. Look, it's so amazing. It's an election year, okay? You and I both know what's happening in the market. You know the bacon costs. You know the gas costs. You know what's impacting your wallet. And people on this channel have commented, and go ahead and commented on what they expect. And a lot of the comments are how unaffordable housing is. And so we're going to get to that for the Austin area. But for the rate cuts, they weren't expecting them until late next year. Nick T, who is kind of like the Adam Schefter of this world, basically the Fed, they want to leak information, they give it to Nick T, right? Well, Nick T is actually predicting that rate cuts will be earlier in the year than June. What happened from there? Well, immediately we saw rates decrease. For mortgage rates, the 10-year treasury dropped like a rock. We saw the highest mortgage rate cuts since 2008. It was big. We were in the low 7s. Remember, not too long ago, we were in the 8% range. We went from 8% down all the way to 6.64. We got down to 6.62, but the VA was down like 6.15. Every single realtor went out and started posting how amazing this is without really understanding what that means for the economy. What that means for the economy is that the economy isn't doing as well. They're trying to nail this soft landing and get inflation down. But the stock market is going to see some major drops coming up, and we're going to still see some layoffs. If you look at the Austin area, every time we look around, there's another company cutting jobs. But at the same time, you also see more jobs or more companies looking to bring data centers and all this stuff in. I don't know how that's going to affect things, but if we look at 2022, more people moved into the Austin area in 2022 than most markets. In fact, it was the fastest growing metroplex in the US. So that's something to think about. In a lot of the comments we had, people are saying there's a net negative migration into Austin, and that is going to impact the numbers for Austin, which we'll talk about. Yet Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of these entities, Zillow, all came out with predictions for next year before this information really dropped. And one that I thought was pretty interesting was the Redfin one. And a lot of these were all kind of in line. They're all predicting that we're overall in the general market, we're going to see about a 1% decline for the whole year, right? That's kind of what they're predicting. Overall for this year, we saw a 3.7% increase, you know, a really tough year in the market. Look, Austin was a brutal year for buying and selling. It was a tough year, but it was one of my best years still because, look, people still need to buy and sell, and they still need smart people helping them do that. And that's what we've provided at this team. Look, we give a lot of good information outside of this channel to our clients. Right now, I'm seeing more inventory, and we'll talk about the Austin market in a minute. I'm seeing more inventory because I see more people calling me to get ready to sell their home. I already have 2 properties coming up in Belterra, one at 650, one at 1.1 million. I have one coming in Zilker Park at 2.3 million next year. I just got a call from somebody who wants to sell in Liberty Hill for about 1.1 million. Oh, and then I just literally got off the phone right now with somebody looking to sell in Reunion Ranch. We have a lot of listings personally on our team coming up. I know a lot of you want to look at channels like Reventure and say, look, these people know what they're talking about. The market's crashing. Look, you can look at that. It's one thing to look at a data person who's looking at data, somebody who actually doesn't even own a home or never even known real estate or worked with real estate. and say, yep, they're right. It is different to have somebody who has boots on the ground. Look, I'm not here to sell you anything. So many people have reached out to me and thanked me for this channel because they bought or sold and they didn't even use me. It's interesting, but it's interesting, the comments. Thank you for all the comments in 2023. We will see you in the comments in 2024. All of you wonderful people like to say negative things about realtors. All those people love to say nice things about what we've done for this channel. Appreciate what we've done. I appreciate you. I want to give you a little bit of gratitude before we move any further. Thank you so much, because I put a lot of time and energy into helping my clients, helping grow this channel, helping agents at our brokerage grow their business and get better at their craft and become better agents, and our team become better. So I appreciate you for that. But this Redfin information is pretty much in line with what everybody else is saying. And this rate drops actually help this information. A lot of sellers have been sitting on the sideline going, I don't want to sell because rates are too high. Well, both buyers and sellers are kind of getting used to these higher rates. And while I say on my channel that there is a lot of pent-up demand, look at the sales numbers. Sales across the board have been down all year round. And that's not necessarily because people aren't ready to buy. It's because interest rates and affordability have been so high. And when we talk about the Austin numbers in a minute, it's going to make a lot of sense that Austin numbers are actually below 2022, below 2021 numbers. Yeah. And oh, by the way, last year I said we could end the year positive. Well, I was right, because we may. I'll show you that in a second, so stay tuned. Anyway, what this Redfin article says and what all of this pretty much alludes to is that 2024, there's actually going to be more sales. There's going to be more buyers from people that are selling their home and more buyers in general because interest rates are dropping, which we've seen. So if you are a buyer or you are a seller and you are thinking that now is the time to buy or sell, drop a comment below. What do you think about the rate drops? What do you think about what's going on in the economy? Are you ready to sell? I mean, I get calls from people already. Go back to Seattle, go back to New York, go back to LA, go back to San Francisco. I get a lot of calls right now. A lot of my clients are outbound migration. Let's get to the information in Austin. So here's what happened for November. But anyway, does all that make sense? First, interest rates are dropping. People are getting more excited because interest rates are dropping. We are not going to see a super strong economy in 2024 is what our predictions are. Basically what Redfin's saying, it's going to be a much better time for buyers and more affordable. Let's look at the Austin numbers. So as we saw for the Austin MSA, it dropped again down to 424. This is a pretty interesting thing because the Austin MSA last year was at 467 and before that was 470. I think it's really important that when you hear these numbers, you don't necessarily just go automatically like, okay, everything's dropping. Because if I were to look at all of these stats, Austin MSA is literally five different counties, right? Bastrop, Caldwell, Williamson, Travis, and whatever the other one is, Hayes. Okay, now look, Bastrop is down 3%. Caldwell's down 5%. Austin, the city of Austin's actually up. We'll get into that in a second. Hayes County's down 10%. Travis County is only down 1%. And Williamson County is down 3%. So you have counties around Austin that aren't actually Austin dragging down the prices. But the sales for the Austin MSA, we have more listings. We have more active listings. We have more pending sales. That means December is going to be a strong month for closings. And we were about 1% positive for closed sales. We were about the same as last year's closed sales. But here's a caveat. We got more listings. You saw 18 days more on market, 75 days average. You're getting ready to sell, just plan. If you don't price it right, you could be on the market more than 75 days. But we also saw inventory drop, which is, guess what? I've been saying that on this channel. The inventory was going to drop. Because why? I pay attention to the trends every year, okay? If we look at the Austin numbers, I'm getting the prediction, I promise. They put out the statistic that Austin went to 518. If you look at my charts, because I chart this, does anybody else chart this for you? And if you want these charts, drop a comment below. If you want my charts, I may put together a Google form where you can actually get my monthly charts. So if you want that information, drop a comment. I want to hear from you. They say Austin is at 518. If you look at my chart, that actually puts Austin, which is 1% positive. Closed sales were down 6% from last year. Pending sales were down. Active listings up. Days on market up 18 days. This is all really good information. It's going to give you my predictions for next year. 3.8 months inventory. So inventory came down. A lot of that's people pulling their homes off the market. 518 means that prices dropped month over month and prices are actually negative year over year. What the heck is Austin MSA, or who puts our data together, talking about 518? So I actually went in and looked at the data. The data shows year to date we're at 540,000. So if they plugged in that number, but they put this chart, they put out the 540, here's what 540 looks like. We're actually plus 1%. Depending on how you're gonna look at the numbers, I was potentially right by saying that we could see the end of the year positive because we were up 1%. If we're going off the 518 number, I don't know which one to go off of, then that's obviously not positive year over year. Also wrong and right at the same time, who knows? But my predictions were pretty close. I've never said that this year was gonna be a banger year, which leads me to my predictions for 2024. Here's what's interesting. When we started 2023, I said there's a lot of inventory. That means the prices aren't going to go up as drastically as they did 2022, 2021. Interest rates dropping helps the Austin market a lot, but I'm getting calls from a lot of people ready to sell. There's already more inventory, 3.8 months of inventory on the market right now. December numbers aren't out yet, but I can tell you December has been a very strong month. We put more people under contract in December already. We're barely at the 16th. We put more people under contract in the first 16 days in all of November combined. So we're going to go into 2024 strong. This inventory for Austin is a huge, huge problem, and the MSA is a huge problem going into 2024. I don't have high hopes that Austin is going to see massive price increases. Remember, I've said that the crash has already happened, right? The crash happened in 2022. Now we're seeing the residuals of that crash. We're seeing the market shake itself out. We could see a lot more inventory on the market, which means prices aren't going to go up as high. So if you are considering buying, this year might be a more affordable year, or actually right now might be a more affordable time, depending on your situation. Okay. If you're getting ready to sell, I am going to give you some big advice. You better price that thing right. And what I mean right is under what you think you should list it for. I know you don't want to hear that of a realtor. I know you don't, but look, builders have been using a lot of incentives to get homes under contract. Now, if you are selling because rates have come down, you're going to be competing with builders. And what I've been saying, you don't want to compete with builders because they inflate their prices so much that they can beat you in incentives. I don't think 2024 is going to be a banger year for Austin. I think there will be a lot more sales in Austin than there was this year. And I think that's because you're going to see better interest rates, so people back in the market are going to feel a little bit better. Look, again, I said earlier, everybody's on the news talking about how amazing the economy is. You get enough people believing that because they're saying that, they may be jumping back in the market. I don't think we're going to see a major year-over-year positive for Austin. We could end the year just flat. If this number is right at 518, market normally goes up at the beginning of the year and then drops. So we don't know where interest rates are going to be towards the end of the year. If they do come down, we may see a lot of people buying at the end of next year, which means that we'll end the year almost positive, if not flat. That's my prediction next year. I don't think it's going to be this crazy, crazy year, but I think if you're going to be buying or selling, you either need to get really good incentives still if you're buying, and if you're a seller, you need to give good incentives. What do you think? Drop a comment below.